Great. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to our third talk, brainstorm talk called Leading in the Era of Artificial Intelligence. As you know, this is basically a joint initiative that is run by two organizations based in Vienna, Austria. One is Jamba Career for All, and the second organization is Artificial Intelligence for Development Agency. You will have all the contact details if you want to stay in touch with us or get to know us a little bit more. At the end of this talk, we will share with you our connection details, and yeah, we encourage you to reach out to us. So let's start. I have the pleasure today to welcome our amazing guest, Mohsin Chan. He is from Pakistan. He is the CEO of Youth Advocacy Council of Pakistan, and we are really grateful for his presence today and for have taken the time to join us and talk to you about his work in Pakistan and in ways in which his organization uses AI to be useful to the community. So welcome, Mohsin.
Well, thank you so much, Elena, and thank you, Eva.
Wonderful. So I will start sharing my screen with you now, just to take you through the presentation for today. And just bear with me one minute. Okay. So just a few logistical things for us to start with. Just for you to know, we are recording this talk, and we are also live on Facebook. So we are streaming live. In case any of you wants to perhaps switch off the camera, etc., feel free to do so. Your microphone is muted, and there is a reason why. You will obviously be given the floor to ask questions if you want to ask questions after the presentations. So please take that opportunity, use that opportunity to raise any questions you may have. And of course, there is also the chat function during the talk. If you have questions and we are presenting and you cannot address them, you can always use the chat function to do so. Just a reminder again of this joint initiative, our mission and vision. Basically, we want to raise awareness around artificial intelligence. We want to demystify AI so that no one is left behind in the era of artificial intelligence. And this set of talks are in particular dedicated to people with disabilities. So we hope to have many of them joining us today and having also questions perhaps prepared for us. The next talk that we are going to have will be in January the 14th. The subject is AI and ethics. We will bring to you two amazing speakers, researchers, both of them at the Technical University of Graz. They will look into the benefits and risks of AI systems from a technical perspective, but also philosophical perspective. So that will also be a very engaging discussion, and we'll hope to have you joining us on January the 14th. And so for today's discussion our topic is leading in the era of artificial intelligence, and we have three main parts. I would like us to have a look at what really leading in the era of AI means, and who are or where are these leaders, and then Mohsin will introduce his organization and the amazing work that they are doing there, and will present us how they lead the AI revolution in their own community and for their own country. And afterwards, we'll have the opportunity to have some questions and exchange on this topic. So for today, I would like us to look at this leading in the era of AI through three different angles. So we will start with looking at it from a country perspective, a government perspective, then community level, and here Mohsin's contribution will be extremely important for our topic and discussion today, and then also an individual level. So I will present a country and individual level, and then the best part in the middle of the sandwich will be given to Mohsin to talk about his work and his experience. So as you all know, there are different countries competing basically in the era of artificial intelligence, and in particular, US, so the United States and China are, of course, outstanding competitors in this race. However, there are also other countries that really make amazing use of AI, and I will talk a little bit more about those countries as well. And in my next slide, I will explore and get a little bit more concrete on how US and China are basically tackling the era of AI. The reason why governments are racing to become a champion in the era of AI is because of its huge potential, the potential of this technology from an economic and also social perspective to create growth and to strengthen any government and any country around the world. So as you see, there are certain forecasts from different consulting companies and research institutes that predict that AI will add approximately $15 trillion to the global economy by 2030. These numbers may need to be revised now during Corona times. I think 2020 has been a particular year, but nevertheless, the potential still remains very, very significant. And of course, global competitiveness is directly tied to the industrialization of AI. This is another reason why many countries around the world try to make it with and through the era of AI. And also, as I have shared with you in the first talk that we gave, around more than 50 countries actually around the world have drafted certain national AI policies and strategies in trying to understand how the country can make the best out of this technology and adopt it in a meaningful way. So let me share with you some ideas on the last point on this slide. So countries with important stakes in AI, but not named as the leaders in AI compared to the US and China. So for instance, Japan has been a leader in AI for a long time now, in particular in AI and robotics. They have been the leaders definitely in using this technology in robotics, and they have very, very strong research centers, institutes. One thing they are lacking currently, or they are suffering, is a problem of demographics. So as we all know, Japan's population is getting older and older, which means basically a lack of talent in the country and labor force to help them grow and even prosper with technological development they are looking into. Now, UK, for instance, UK is a particular case. UK, in particular in Europe and also around the world, tries to position itself as the leader in AI ethics and principles. So they know that they don't have the force and neither the investment seen as the US or China to compete with those, and neither the fundings, but they think they can be the leaders in all the policies related to AI, responsible AI, trustworthy AI, and perhaps any other terms that you may be familiar with. France, contrary or not quite contrary, of course, AI ethics is also very big on their agenda. They are mainly focusing on free things, so transportation or AI in cities, AI in defense, and AI in the ecosystem in the environment. So these are their three major points of focus for France, and also they are attracting. So they have a very interesting a way and package to attract investors, and also many of the AI or big tech companies basically have created offices in France in AI research, such as Facebook, IBM, and many others have taken this opportunity to implement and position themselves in this country. Now, South Korea has a big ambition in also being a leader in AI. They are looking at it mainly through AI in the public administration. So how can it be useful for the government, and also in creating their skills and in the universities, in the research institutes, etc., to be competitive on the market. So they are building many hubs and many research similar to Silicon Valley, but just different places in the country to attract this to talent, and also to form basically and train the people on the right skills with AI. And of course, if we take the example of Russia, so I think Vladimir Putin has made a statement saying something along the lines that whoever will make it or will lead in the AI will be the leader, a world leader, will become a world leader in the next years. So Russia also sees the importance of AI and the opportunity to position themselves. Now, one of the main focus, of course, is AI in defense, and they are canalizing a lot of resources in that direction. The problems, one of the major problem Russia faces is related to investment. It's very difficult to attract investment in Russia, and also the labor force. So the AI brains in the country, if there are any and talent, and of course they are basically hired abroad. So there is very little future prospects for those people to stay in Russia and basically invest back in the country. Now, a few words about perhaps US and China. You may be very familiar with with those two countries and the continuous battle between those two titans on the global economy, and in particular related to AI. So China is very clear. They are using AI in all sorts of ways you can imagine, from from using facial recognition to interact and track different parts of the population or all population, to using it in the banking system, to using it in the public administration as well, etc. So they are big. They're definitely big on AI. One of the reasons why they can be that big on AI development and training models and use is because their laws around customer protection, for instance, data protection, customer data protection, is quite reduced. So that would make would explain why they are actually able and capable to develop AI without a whole lot of barriers. Of course, they are also big in investing and attracting investors and in funding AI opportunities. And I think here you may be familiar with some national champions such as Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, which are global AI companies basically around the world. Those themselves invest a lot in the country in AI solutions. Of course, the government structure and the private sector functions a little bit differently than it may do in other parts of the world, in particular in Europe or the US. So there is a strong synergy between the government and the market forces, the private sector, and that could be seen as an advantage for China to definitely become the world leader in terms of AI. They also train their leadership, so government leadership on AI, AI use, AI design, etc. So they really take this seriously. While the US, of course, they are receiving a lot of. I mean, there is a lot of funding going on and a lot of investment in the US on AI. I mean, companies such as Facebook, Google, IBM, Amazon, Apple, etc. The result are the product of the US system being an active actor in technology, and in particular AI. However, certain regulation restrictions may be perceived as problematic in the advancement of artificial intelligence. There has also been recently a quite of a dissonant messages coming from the government and from the private sector in terms of what they want to do and how they want to do it. Nevertheless, as you see on the slide, so global giants such as Google, Amazon, Apple are still the biggest in the world in AI. And here actually are taken the number of startups, AI startups that were bought by each of those companies. So this was the way in which was measured basically the investment in AI. There are different ways to look at it. So in this case, in particular case, was taking into account the number of startups that were bought by this, players, big players. Okay, so I hope you got a little bit of an idea of what it really means to lead in the era of artificial intelligence, and what are the countries or governments really looking at it. Of course, there are many others to mention. In particular, Finland is. And the University of Helsinki is taking AI literacy and AI awareness very, very seriously. They have developed a wide range of training programs accessible for free in English, for instance, for everyone to take on this training and basically develop new skills in AI, understand what AI is, etc. I think one of their targets was to have by 2025 at least 20% of the population trained on AI, and not really on their own population in Helsinki, in Finland. So, but not only they have reached the target, but they have surpassed the target. So, and before 2025. So it's really amazing the effort they are putting into this, educating their population. And they have also recently launched a new training on AI in ethics. Okay, again, a great example of the government to really moving forward and tackling the AI challenge at a national level. I hope these initiatives will be seen and taken everywhere around the world. Okay, so individually, what can we really do to also become a leader in the era of artificial intelligence and feel part of this revolution and not be left out, basically? I think by now it's really obvious that AI is really impacting every industry. That means every job that is out there. And not only that, but it's really affecting the way we make a living. And this change is exponential. So it may happen faster than we can really perceive it and control it or manage it. So I think having a mindset that would allow us to really understand that this is happening, this is coming, will help us to at least start to be a little bit more curious about AI and see how AI can really shape or is shaping our own job and the future of work as well, and what kind of skills we can adopt. So I will not go into the future of work and skills of the future because we have a special talk dedicated to this, which will come just after the AI ethics talk. So in February, we will have a talk on the future of work, and we will share there more information with you. But I wanted to share with you this one slide that you can see right now as a teaser, basically, for that talk. Because, I always have to receive the question, is AI really going to replace my job, or is AI going really to lay off people, etc.? And as you can see, this is basically a snapshot from the World Economic Forum report from 2020. They looked into the future of jobs, and they worked here with LinkedIn and Coursera to gather the data and analyze the data. And of course, I think this report was put together before the corona. So things may have changed a little bit, but not too much in terms of the future of work. So as you can see, there is indeed, of course, a decrease in numbers of jobs that will be required in the future. And here you have a list of with the first 10 basically that will be most affected, or people foresee to be more, or researchers foresee to be most affected. But in the same time, there is a huge number of jobs that are growing, developing, and much more that will be created. So it is a quite positive aspect and perspective for the future. But nevertheless, of course, I think we at the individual level will still have to do our homework and try to understand how is AI really shaping our world beyond using our phones and computers. And here we would like to share with you 3 ideas. Of course, there is no secret recipe on how to go about it at individual level, how to become a leader in the era of artificial intelligence, how to lead your own change and how to lead your own transformation. It very much depends on where you find yourself, in which country, on which continent, which career, which job position, your aspirations, etc. But I think these 3 things are quite valid for no matter where you are. The first one is really to look into the valuable human skills. And you may have heard of the psychologist Gardner. He came up with a matrix on different intelligences. So there are more than, I think it's 9 or 12 intelligence that he identified, and each of them being as important as any other of those of the rest of them, and also working independently. And you may have heard of emotional intelligence, you may have heard of music intelligence or creativity. These are all forms of intelligence that are that for now models and train algorithms are not modeled and are not trained yet, and also machines are not didn't grasp yet on how to do that. So these are skills that only humans have. And the more we work on those and the more we try to enhance those skills and we become more aware of our different types of intelligences that we have, more chances we'll have to succeed in the era of artificial intelligence. Then the second one is understanding AI terminology and principles. I think this is one of the reasons why we are holding this talks and many other events that we are organizing, is basically to send out the message and let people know that you don't have to be an IT guru, or you don't have to be a programmer, or you don't have to work for Google to feel the need that you have to understand AI, or that you should set some time aside and confront yourself with AI terminology and principles. The reality is that we will all have to interact with AI systems, and we will all have to understand how to do that and how to read an AI system and have a basic understanding on how this technology functions, so that we can then do our work successfully. So each of us at any level, excluding engineers, they are by default those that have to be most confronted with it, but we will all have to do that, and there are different ways in which you can do that. I just shared with you some training programs that are out there. We ourselves, we organize some. This talk is in particular dedicated to that. So there are different ways in which you can grasp that knowledge. And then the last point, and I will stop here, after which I will give the floor to, or the mic to Mohsin. So it's really important to be attentive of the gaps. As you know, the design and the usability of any AI solution, it is required actually now more and more to have the human in the loop, and to make sure that basically there is someone, for instance, to to identify malfunction of a system. There is someone to identify if there is a misalignment in terms of emotional interpretation of the software or the algorithm, and etc. So there are, possibilities in which we can be part of the process by basically identifying the gaps where we can plug ourselves in and then be useful to the system and make use as well of our knowledge and skills. And yes, so these are my few thoughts from our side, and I would like to let now Mohsin share his screen and his presentation with us, and also I'd like to let him tell us about his organization and the work that he has been doing. So for you all to know, Mohsin has been, of course, a good friend and an excellent partner, and we are very grateful to have him with us. He's connecting from Pakistan. It is around 10 past in the evening in Pakistan, so he's really making an effort to be here with us, and we are very grateful for him. Thank you very much, Mohsin. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Elena. I think your presentation was really nice and comprehensive. And thanks for my introduction. Um, Good evening, everyone. Um, so, in today's talk, actually, I will focus on three aspects. First, to let viewers from Europe and from different part of the world, to just give them a brief snapshot of what Digital Pakistan is. Digital Pakistan is an ambitious plan of the current government to transform countries for digitization, and I will give you some snapshot that how they are doing it, and give you an overview of the policies and legislation that is going on, particularly related to AI and different other technological advancement, and how actually we are preparing for AI and Industry Revolution 4.0, which actually Elena already discussed. Second, I will actually discuss about the role of tech and AI from my organization perspective, that is Youth Advocacy Council. I will give you a brief, information that how actually we are advancing SDGs, particularly related to SDG 3, 5, and 10, related to good health and well-being and gender inequality. And lastly, I will give you a brief overview of people with special abilities. I actually do not call them people with disability, but people with special ability or special needs, and introduce you few organizations who are actually using technology to support these marginalized community. So let's begin with this. So regarding Pakistan, we have a 212 million population, which is actually a second largest Muslim country in the world. And if you see the demographic division, um, over 63% of our population is under the age of 30. So it means that there is a huge youth bulge. And in the recent ranking by Pioneer, Pakistan was fourth in terms of freelancing earning, and most of those freelancers were youth. And yearly, if we see the graduates, they are more than 20,000 that has been produced by our academic institutions, and there are 2,000 IT companies or business call centers that are operating from our country. And in terms of internet user, we have 31 million internet users and 125 million mobile subscriber. Even though our internet penetration is just 16%, but as I said that we were number four in terms of freelancing and revenue generating. So still this low penetration, we are actually, trying to move ahead. And our average income is less than 1500, which is very low, but still we're trying to advance in different socio-economic indicators. So What is Digital Pakistan? Digital Pakistan, as I said, is a kind of obsessive quest as well as an ambitious plan where the government actually try to digitize different sectors and especially e-government transformation. And they also want to include people with special need or people with special abilities, youth and minorities to accelerate SDGs. And they have a vision to become a strategic enabler for accelerated digitization ecosystem to expand the knowledge-based economy and spur socio-economic growth. It also entails to establish specialized innovation centers, capacity development program, fintech, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, cloud computing, big data in major cities of Pakistan. So there has been, a lot of investment that is going on in these areas. At the same time, the government introduced financial and non-financial incentive to attract foreign direct investment. They are trying to establish tech zone and IT parks nationwide, and also they want to strengthen the higher education institutions, their capacity, and to make more industrial linkages. And regarding the funding, what I actually got from some of my friends in Ministry of IT and Ministry of Science and Technology. They're spending billions of dollars to build the capacities of universities and national vocational training centers, and they are also actually starting some skills program to prepare the youth and the population for digital Pakistan and industry revolution 4.0. For instance, they already established a national center for robotics and automation. It is a consortia of 11 labs over 13 universities of Pakistan with headquarter in NUST. NUST is a National University of Science and Technology, one of the premium institute in Pakistan. And the center will actually serve as a leading technological hub within the domain of robotics and automation and artificial intelligence. And then we had another very great initiative, which is Presidential Initiative for Artificial Intelligence that aim to train over 100,000 youth in artificial intelligence. So this is actually the website for the Presidential Initiative for Artificial Intelligence and Computing, and they already had started some online courses because of this COVID situation, and so far they actually got like over 100K application in just first inaugural year. So from this we can see that a lot of people actually they are interested to learn about these new technologies and particularly artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and robotics, and especially data analytics as well. So looking at these the pace of technological advancement and the government policies and enabling environment, um, youth advocacy council also actually try to capture and capitalize this momentum, and we were registered in 2012, and we actually trying to impact people's life. And so far, 5,000 vulnerable communities and marginalized groups, particularly transgender person, minorities, and people with special needs, they had been impacted through our programs, and we envision to strengthen youth for social development and economic empowerment. Uh, we actually focused on digital literacy and skill enhancement. We also work on socio-technological disruption, particularly related to artificial intelligence and cybersecurity through our social enterprise that is called Security Wall. So Security Wall is actually a cybersecurity firm which provide kind of services to different companies and governmental institutions in ethical hacking. And we also work on primary health and prevention of endemic diseases that I will explain actually later, and water and sanitation and peace and preventing violent extremism using technology and digital activism, as well as empowering minorities and transgender person. So this is our small team. Me, Avas, he is our founder and president, and then we have Babar. He is actually the CTO and founder of Security Wall. He also worked with the Prime Minister Reform Unit. He has launched an app for Prime Minister complaints, and he is one of the, you can say, in a technical team to protect data and save it from hacking. And then we have Dr. Hazifa. She is a doctor and she is leading our project development team. And then Sumaira and Farooq for coordination in the char matters. Um, we have been actually the first organization among 19 Asia Pacific countries who were actually finalists for Asia Pacific Social Innovation Award in 2020 by Ministry of Economic Affairs in Taiwan. And among first three organizations from Pakistan, from Asia, who were actually funded by Gilead Sciences, and among top 15 in Startup Istanbul. And also we are DICE Fellow, which is Developing Inclusive and Creative Economies. This program was initiated by British Council, and we are among 1,500 startups in Pakistan for inclusive and creative economies. So what is TransHelp? TransHelp is a digital platform that actually utilize technology and AI to combat health and transphobic challenges. So TransHelp is a Pakistan first innovative digital platform designed to help and provide health and legal support to underserved communities, particularly transgenders and youth, to prevent HIV/AIDS, sexually transmitted disease, gender-based violence, and empower youth and transgender person, people living with HIV/AIDS, to fight against transphobia and gender discrimination. So what we are doing is we have a three-dimensional um, program. The first is that for those who don't have a smartphone, so we are actually operating one tech-enabled center uh, where actually we provide them face-to-face counseling. The second one, for those who have smartphone, we have an mobile app. So far, we have just for Android, and soon we will launch it for iOS as well, which actually provide affordable and convenient access to medical care for 24/7 for the people with smartphone. And lastly, we also do some field activism and trainings, like promoting health education awareness related to gender, human rights for service provider, students, patients, and victims. So, what are our key objectives? We use research as an evidence to identify people, and we done a very comprehensive survey in three districts across two provinces, namely Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, which are actually highly affected by gender-based violence and HIV pandemic. We impart training and awareness regarding HIV STI treatment, as I already said, and we actually including some innovation. And I am actually now working on developing a comic book on HIV treatment, and to demystify myths around its transmission, because most of the time people think that HIV is only caused by sexual um, relation or having multiple partners or things like that. And we also have a chatbot, which is uh, an intelligent chatbot that is actually in local language. So you can actually not only read it in English, but also in the local dialects. And apart from that, we actually assist transgender and youth in voluntarily and confidential HIV counseling and testing services. We help them to diagnose, provide them kind of counseling that to reduce their stigmas and fear for testing through our partners, and also refer them to different kind of treatment centers in case if they um, if we find that they are positive. And another feature that I will explain further is that we want to ensure user uh, safety, and that's why we had a feature of having a nearby police station with accurate numbers of the police station officers, so that in case of any emergency they can call them for help, and also they can send an SOS service by SMS, which is free of cost with the accurate GPS information, so that in case of any emergency or in abduction or kind of threat, they can send information with their location, and then law enforcement agency can find them through geofencing or other techniques.
Sorry, Mohsen, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Yeah, I just want to let you know you are cutting off a little bit, but we can
Okay.
still hear
Okay.
you. Are just cutting off a little bit.
Okay. 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 Maybe there is some technical problem, as I told you that at night sometime internet doesn't work. So this is actually the app. We have an intelligent chatbot, multilingual chatbot. We have some written and video animation to for the users, and then SOS emergency services. And it is integrated with nearby police stations and the treatment centers that people need in case of emergency. And it is fully secure because we have our own team of hackers and or ethical hackers or cybersecurity specialists who actually try to protect the data. And this was actually finalist by Ministry of Economic Affairs in Taiwan. So these are some of the interventions that we have. This is a very comprehensive study on the plight of third gender, a baseline study of transgender person in Pakistan. You can actually download it and you can read about what kind of socio-economic and health challenges the third gender have in Pakistan, and how actually technology can help them to reduce these barriers to access health and educational facilities in Pakistan. And these are some of the trainings that we have done despite this great pandemic with our partners. This was a media outreach with national televisions and radio stations across these districts. So, what is the impact since February 2020? Um, we had actually um, impacted directly 3,000 people's lives. And then through this program, when we done a kind of mid evaluation, we found that 70% of the TGPs in youth had enhanced HIV, STI, and human rights knowledge, as well as how they can prevent themselves from transphobic attacks and HIV infection. Um, we also actually held 12 health and HR educational projects, like 4 symposium, which provided training for 2,000 people, including we actually train 100 master trainers, and these trainers will be actually helping us to roll out program across the whole country. We also had 2,300 e-health and legal consultation, and across 3 districts we actually covered e-health and legal centers, where we actually try to facilitate voluntarily and confidential HIV testing for 500 transgender person. And also we actually expand our partnership with the 4 major academic universities covering 16,000 students. And apart from that, we believe that we actually reach to millions of people through these 4 media campaigns with Radio Pakistan and with national TV like Pakistan Television, which is a state-run television, which covered 95% of the whole country. So these were some of the impact that we had on through this using technology and you know activism, digital activism. So what is your future plan? In the future, we want to establish free legal aid committees and 3 data centers to collect, map, and visualize HIV, STI, GBV, and people with special need geographic areas, and provide them a kind of 24 by 7 assistant, and accelerate our advocacy effort for 1 million people. We want to enhance and build user-friendly interface for this app. We want to incorporate, major languages. We also want to incorporate speech recognition and audio-visual support, and employ natural language processing, dialogue flow, which we already have, but we want to, strengthen it more and more, and ML to enhance our chatbot feature. We also want to develop interactive multi-level educational material, including animation, comic series for kids and service provider, as well as law enforcement agencies, because they don't know about these, gender-based violence or related to human rights kind of stuff. And we also want to increase the referral support uh, towards testing, treatment, and prevention of HIV/AIDS, as well as creating more and more legal centers with strong follow-up, and integrate GPS to locate nearby police station, and empowering law enforcement agencies so that they can also help people in need and nearby health centers. um, Another major thing that I am actually thinking, because T Health was created as a non-for-profit entity, but now we are thinking to make it more a social enterprise, where we will actually provide kind of services to the transgender-based organizations, service providers, and other UN organizations, because now things are changing in Pakistan. People are talking about diversity and inclusion, so maybe we can work on this. And for AI, generally, since we already are working on cybersecurity education, on ethical hacking, coding for girls, and how we can prevent fake news and online harassment. So we will be working on responsible AI and ethics of AI. We want to design a curriculum for kids and for university students. So this is all from my side. If you want to be um, partner for this change, you can just look at our website, or you can write to me directly at my email. So the floor is open for question or comments or any feedback. Thank you so much. And this is actually there was a short video, but I think maybe we have less time, so we can skip this one. So lastly, um, people with special abilities. In Pakistan, actually, we have no accurate information about people with special abilities or people with disabilities. But according to the research by British Council in 2018, there are 27 million people with special abilities or people with disabilities. And in a bid to protect the rights and dignity of its population with disability, Pakistan also ratified the Convention of the Rights of Person with Disability in 2011. So you can see that uh, very late our government has ratified this convention. Despite this, persons with disabilities are marginalized. They face discrimination, exclusion, and neglect, and are unable to participate fully and effectively in our society. So they particularly face barriers in education, in economic participation, employment, legal recognition, and availability of clinical resources. And when I was actually looking at the research conducted by British Council and other independent think tanks, there are 1.4 million children with disabilities who do not have any access to either inclusive or special schools. And there is only one law focusing on persons with disabilities in Pakistan, the Disabled Person Employment and Rehabilitation Ordinance of 1981. So you can see 1981, since several decades ago. And there are only just 0.49 psychologists or psychiatrists for every 100,000 people in Pakistan. Even though there are a number of organizations working in service delivery, charity, or advocacy, but very limited actually. When Elena told me to find any organization who is using technology or AI to support people with disability or people with special abilities, it was really hard for me to find, because there were only two organizations that I found. One is iHorizon. It is a startup which aim to bring awareness about visual impairment, and they actually trying to develop an app to support people with visual disabilities. The other one is really interesting. That is Deaf Talk. It is a digital platform service that aim to bridge the communication gap between the deaf community and the general public in a real time through their signal sign language interpreter. And they also provide kind of online sign language interpretation services, audio video translation services, and sign language trainings. The both of these organizations were supported by UNDP in Pakistan, and I already included their information. So maybe Jamba and Elena, you can look at the resources, and then you can find something if it is appealed to you. So these are some of our social media accounts where you can find more about our work. And if you have any question or comment, you can ask me directly. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mohsen. I think that that was a really very nice presentation, comprehensive on how AI can be used in the community in general, and in particular, how Pakistan is addressing the AI challenge, and how your organization is using the technology and AI to, yeah, to leverage its potential and serve the community at large. Thank you very much for highlighting some crucial information around people with special abilities. You call it people with different abilities. Jamba calls it. It's always nice to see, you know, kind of the same thinking behind the terminology.
Hmm.
And it is really striking to see that only 0.5 almost percent, right? You were saying psychologists are basically in charge of 100,000 people that would be needed support, right? So it's a very low number of experts that
Yes.
can serve this population. This is really incredible. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. Hmm.
Thank you so much, Elena. So if someone has any question or comment, they can just maybe, I don't know about the format, so um, you can lead the conversation further. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one question, but I would like to give the floor perhaps to the participants, those that join us. Anyone, any question? You can also use the chat function, as you know, to type in your question. In the meantime, you highlighted you have a successful path, right? And you have managed to leverage and create a lot of interest around the topics you really care about, and the organization has created an impact and tremendous impact in the country and also in the region. But what kind of challenges did you face? I'm sure the road has not been smooth all the time. So, what
Yes,
were the
actually, there
major
are,
challenges?
well, actually, I think there are multiple challenges
Mm,
from technological perspective, the social resistance. It is a social kind of, taboos in Pakistan, especially in Islamic world, when you talk about these issues. And then financial resources as well, but we managed to overcome financial thing, but we still are facing some challenges to find out some volunteers as well as technical people who understand human rights, who understand about SDGs, and who are passionate about using technology, particularly AI, because
mm,
most of the time the people from this technology arena, I'm not a technologist, I am an economist and public policy person. So we know about these stuff, but people from computer science background, or from artificial or deep learner, or these kind of people, they somehow do not understand. So there is a kind of big bridge. So whenever I try to hire someone, or I invite him to join this team, or this startup, I would call it now a startup, Trans Health, um, they actually do not understand this. So this is still one of the challenge. And the other thing that I mentioned is the social resistance.
mm,
Social resistance is one of the greatest challenge. People do not want to talk about it. Even some of interestingly, some of my earlier teammates, they were also were very have some concern about this issue, that why you are just focusing on trans health or transgender or HIV or STI and these endemic diseases. We can do something like most of the people are doing for irrigation, AI for irrigation, or AI for different other telemedicine kind of stuff. So why not we do like this? So why you are focusing this? So I told them that, yeah, many people are doing these stuff, but we should do something that is not done before. So do something for the community that has been neglected for a long time. So I think these two challenges still we are having, but we are trying to overcome it. And that was the reason that we actually talked to you, and we're very much open to other people who want to join us for this novel cause.
Yeah, I think we need to join forces, as you are saying, and create these bridges that seem to be to be broken at some point. And very,
Yeah.
very grateful for that. We have questions coming in, so um, lots of interest for trans help. So Lara is asking when the trans help app was developed. She believes they maybe some of the elements were probably useful in helping a COVID testing app. So yeah, when if you could tell us when it was developed
Actually,
and if you could use
since
some of the.
yeah, the idea of trans help was conceived back in 2000, in September 2019, when there was no COVID. Nobody know there will be a
Mhm,
pandemic. So when we were designing it, we actually, we had this idea that okay, we will include these stuff, particularly related to these diseases. But later on, when this things came in December, and then in late February, March, when we had a shutdown in the whole country, then I asked my team that we should include some information about COVID-19 as well, and we should persuade people, particularly these transgender, because they are living in a crowded space. They do not have any formal employment. Most of them are sex worker, or they are living on a very minimal
yeah.
income. Because we
Mm,
had a very detailed research, and I encourage everyone here, they can go to our website and can download that uh,
mhm,
report. They will find some interesting fact. So we actually use some informational content, and we also distributed some kind of ISC material to these transgenders whom we were in contact. And but definitely there were a lot of cases actually, because if one person is affected, then all their families were affected. And transgenders are actually not living with their families. Mostly they are living in a groups which they call dera, or it is a kind of I do not have any appropriate word in English. So they
mm,
live with a guru or someone who is controlling them, who
mhm,
actually asks them for begging, or these different kind of
mm.
stuff, dancing or sex work or something like that. So we actually told them that okay, this is the thing, and then we know that you cannot go out for work or something, and everything is shut down. So please read these things in a local language, and also kind of sensitization and psychosocial support, because they were mentally upset. They have nothing to eat, or no money in their pocket. So definitely there were different challenges that we say, but particularly in this pandemic situation. But we
Mm.
encourage them for testing. um, Even though
Yeah, yeah,
actually usually they don't have any access in the private or public hospital. But we found as an organization that they were more discriminated during pandemic situation, because mainstream facilities were only for other people, not
yeah.
for these non-binary or transgender people. So they were actually marginalized. And we know that there were several cases where they were being infected by COVID. But we actually try to facilitate them through cash or through food aid or stuff like that,
I
using
think
using this app. So this app was actually very instrumental to
mm,
identify people. And we actually, if I remember, we provided kind of food assistance to over 300 transgenders who were actually in a severe need of food and money to support their life. So this app has helped a lot.
yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It is the sad reality in terms of crisis is the most marginalized are also the most vulnerable and the most affected by the situation. So you touched a little bit on the impact, right? That you basically you create and for the services that you deliver. We'll take one last question
Mm.
from Angela. She suggests if you could share
Feedback,
maybe a
yeah.
little bit more exactly on some of the feedback that you have on your
Actually, yes,
impact.
for that, I have a short video. If we have a time, that would be really interesting to hear, because we are actually now in the production phase of creating some stories of this program, because 1 year has passed, and especially this COVID situation. So let me share this short video. Maybe this could help you. It is in local language, but we have subtitles, so maybe you can read it a bit. If you allow me, I am sorry.
Sure, sure, go ahead.
जब मैं छोटी सी थी तो उस वक्त मुझे भी अवेयरनेस नहीं थी। मैं स्कूल जाती थी पढ़ने के लिए, तो मैं मिडिल की स्टूडेंट 8 क्लास में पढ़ती थी। तो मुझे उस वक्त को ऐसी जो सोशल मीडिया नहीं था, कुछ भी नहीं था, बड़ी देर के बाद तो मैंने मुख्तलिफ लोगों से सुना और मेरे अंदर ये दिलचस्पी पैदा हुई कि मैं HIV क्या है, इसके क्या नुकसानात हैं। लोगों को इसके बारे में अवेयरनेस नहीं है। अब जहाँ पे अब मैं मास्टर ट्रेनिंग में मुख्तलिफ एरिए में जाती हूँ, तो मैं इनको सवाल करती हूँ कि HIV क्या। अगर मैं जब HIV का नाम ही लेती हूँ तो उनमें खौफ तारी हो जाता है, क्योंकि उनको पता नहीं है HIV क्या है। ये मुख्तलिफ मकसद चंद एहतियाती तदाबीर से हम इससे बच सकते हैं। तो इस तरह से लोगों में ज़्यादा इसकी अवेयरनेस नहीं पाई जाती, इस पे ज़्यादा काम करने की ज़रूरत है। पाकिस्तान का ज़्यादातर जो एरिया है वो देहात पे मुश्तमिल है, तो बड़े शहरों में तो चलो इसके कुछ प्रोग्राम चल रहे हैं, लेकिन जो छोटे छोटे शहर हैं या कस्बे हैं वहाँ पे ये काम नहीं हो रहे। ये लोगों को बिल्कुल कम लोगों को इसकी अवेयरनेस है कि HIV क्या है और कैसे फैलता है और कैसे नहीं होता। इन लोगों के साथ मिलने जुलने खाने पीने से नहीं होता। लोगों में इसका अभी भी फोबिया है HIV की।
इसके बारे में हमने नाम तो सुना था, लेकिन हमें ये नहीं पता था कि इसके ये मसले कैसे कैसे होते हैं, ये प्रॉब्लम कैसे कैसे होती है। अब हमें ये सारी बातों को पता चला। अब हम इंशाल्लाह इस चीज़ों का ख्याल रखेंगे और हम अपनी ज़िंदगी को अच्छी तरह से एंजॉय करेंगे।
जी, मेरा नाम अवैध साबित एडवोकेट है और मैं यूथ एडवोकेसी में बतौर प्रेसिडेंट 2012 से काम कर रहा हूँ। हमारा मकसद मुआशरे के पिछड़े हुए तबकात की फलाह और तरक्की के लिए जद्दोजहद करना है और उन्हें मुस्तहकम करना है। हवाजसरा इनमें से एक अहम तबका है जिसे ना तो मुआशरती कबूलियत हासिल है और ना ही लोग इन्हें इंसान समझते हैं, इन्हें हकीर समझा जाता है। अगर कोई शख्स या हवाजसरा इस HIV एड्स जैसी बीमारी में कोई मुब्तला हो जाए तो लोग उसे पास बिठाना पसंद नहीं करते, उसे नफरत की निगाह से देखते हैं। हमने ख्वाजा के मुख्तलिफ समाजी और इश्यूज़ पर सर्वे किए और उनकी HIV ट्रेनिंग का भी इंतज़ाम किया, हमने टेस्टिंग का भी इंतज़ाम किया। हमने चाहा कि इनकी एक सर्वे में हम देखें कि कितने % लोग HIV एड्स जो है ना इसकी टेस्टिंग में मुब्तला है। हमने एक ट्रांस हेल्थ के नाम से एक ऐसा ऐप भी बनाया है जिसमें ख्वाजा के मुतालिक हर किस्म की मालूमात उसमें शामिल की गई हैं और जिसमें इनकी सेहत के मुतालिक मालूमात, हकूक़ के हवाले से मालूमात, मुतल्लिका जो पुलिस स्टेशन से नज़दीक तरीन पते के साथ उनके मुतालिक मालूमात, नज़दीक तरीन हस्पताल और उनके पते और उनके फ़ोन नंबर उसके मुतालिक मालूमात। और ये एक ऐसा ऐप है जो पाकिस्तान में नहीं बल्कि एशिया में हमने सबसे पहले लॉन्च किया है और हम इस पे मज़ीद जो है ना इसकी बेहतरी के लिए हम काम कर रहे हैं कि हम इसको मज़ीद जो है ना आम लोगों के लिए भी इसको मौसर बनाएं। सिर्फ ख्वाजा सरा के लिए नहीं है बल्कि ये तमाम लोगों के लिए है, कोई भी शख्स इसको इस्तेमाल कर सकता है। कि ख्वाजा सरा कम्युनिटी से खास कर मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि एहतियात करें, इनकी थोड़ी सी एहतियात इनकी अपनी भी ज़िंदगी बचा सकती है और दूसरे लोगों को भी बचाया जा सकता है।
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that indeed and save lives, right? That's the and objective there. Amazing, impressive work that you are doing, and it's great to see that you are of course building the capacity among this people and use them as they are an instrumental actor and factor for change in their own communities. So that's really great. Thank you very much, Mohsin, for being with us tonight. It was really a pleasure to get to know how you use AI and technology in your own community to deliver your services and create an impact. If we won't have time to take more questions, so you have shared your contact details, and anyone on the call is free to reach out directly to Mohsin and ask your questions or get in touch with him. Thank you all connected. It has really been a pleasure to have you here again on the screen on Zoom. We hope you enjoyed this talk. Feel free to reach out to us as well if you have questions. Otherwise, we wish you all a Merry Christmas. Really happy Christmas and happy holidays to all of you around the world or on the call. And see you latest in January, so next year on the 14th, with our next talk, AI in Ethics, Challenges and Opportunities. Don't miss that one. It will be a great one as well, just as this one. Thank you very much and wishing you all a beautiful evening. Bye. Thank you, Mohsin, for being with us again. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Good night.